everyone and welcome to today's oil painting tutorial. In this tutorial I'm going to paint the first layer of her face and I'm starting with the dark tones. I find it easier when I paint portraits when I start with the darker tones. Because then I can build up on these dark tones. I can easily go into the dark areas with lighter oil paints. The other way around, it doesn't work quite good. If you would start with lighter tones and then paint or try to paint over it with, for example, a dark black or a dark brown, it will mix and you can't really go as dark as if you would start right away with the darker tones. Also, darker tones are most of the time transparent or semi-transparent, like this tone that I mixed here, and whites are most of the time opaque, so just logically you should start with the darker tones first. And for this dark mix that I use here, I mixed together indigo blue, permanent red violet and black, and burnt sienna from Schminke Norma. You don't have to use these tones, you can use any other dark mix that you like. Just make sure that the paint isn't too thick, so that you can add a nice translucent layer on the canvas. So, and here I'm just looking at my reference photo and I'm checking where I have to apply those dark tones. The first layer sometimes feels a little bit like paint-like numbers because I just have to fill out my reference, my underdrawing that I applied here on the canvas. And the underdrawing is like, I use a very like an effortless method here. I just print out my complete reference photo and then I trace it through onto my canvas. So if you want to learn how to get proportions right, I would recommend that you draw your reference first, just to get a hang of it and just learn a bit more. Yeah, but it definitely saves time when you create a painting and you just trace your reference photo through it. But there are advantages and disadvantages with both ways, so just do what you think is right and what fits best to your style of painting. So, and now I'm looking where can I find more of those dark areas. And the next dark area here is inside her mouth. And with this method, when I just see, okay, what color do I have on my brush and where do I have to go next, I save so much time, because let's say I would finish one eye and then I have mixed all the exact same colors for the other eye, and it would just take twice as much of time. So this is why I try to see where I can apply the color that I have on my brush. And like the same dark tone here I found in the shadow around her nose. So it's not the perfect color, so I don't try to mix like the perfect paint here. The color values are more important. So it's dark and it's kind of brownish. I like to add a bit of blue to it just because I like it. So I use a bit of indigo blue. And I also use Liquin Original. This is an oil paint medium which is very, very slick, and it decreases the drying time of your oil paint. I'm also using Gamsol as a paint thinner and also to clean my brushes in between the mixing process. But these two are the only things that I use for oil painting besides of my paint, obviously. So the shadow goes around the nose here, and of course the eyebrows are dark as well, so I will add some darker strands here in her eyebrows, like that. And there's definitely a bit of the dark tone here in the corner of her left eye. Here are some of the darker stripes as well. Here too. And here underneath her lips as well. And now I move on to the next dark color, which is not as dark as the one that I mixed there. For this one I'm using more burnt sienna and maybe a bit of the permanent wet red violet, because it just gives the color a bit more like pink and purple to it, and maybe that looks good. We will just see and adapt and change the color if it doesn't. So I think that fits to the skin tone here. So here we have like a dark shadow. I will add some of this more brownish tone to the nose shadow as well. And here is a very large dark area, but it's not quite black. It's more of this brownish tone that I mixed. So I'm filling it in. I think I will add a bit more of the olive green from Schmincke. This is not a transparent paint, it's more opaque, but that's not bad. I just add more of the green to it because like there's green in every face. Like every skin tone has green in it if it's lit with natural light. You can't really see a lot of it, so it just makes the brown less brown and makes it a bit more like muted. So I'm just looking where I can add this color. And it's important not to use too much color. It really depends on your painting style though. If you plan to use a lot of layers and you don't mind the drying time and you just wait until it's dried and then you add another layer, you can use as thick oil paint as you want to do. And also if you paint on not on canvas like I do, but on wood for example, you can use more paint as well because the paint gets sucked into the surface easier. But with canvas, there's only so much paint that the canvas can handle, and if you have used too much paint, you are only pushing it on the surface. Like you can't really make any changes and you can't paint fine anymore. You can only do like very rough and loose things. So I try to avoid using too much paint in the beginning, but the more I progress in my painting, like in the session that I'm in, I use more paint. Like now I'm using very thin paint, but the more time will pass, I will use thicker and thicker paint. Okay, now now I need to do some details here, because this darker brown tone is here around her eye, but it's not like a large area. Yeah, just some thin strokes under her eye. And here as well. So like here's the waterline of the eye, and then underneath that there is a brown dark, like a brownish dark shadow. I will add a bit of cadmium red to it, This is a very strong red tone, very opaque, and yeah, this was already too much. It's so strong that you only need a little bit of it. But I just want to have this brown a bit more red, so that it fits to her skin tone better. Like around the eyes, the shadows are a bit more red, so I need to add more red and orange to it. And here I'm just looking where these shadows are, and there's one under her right eye, of course, like on the left side. It's the same, but it's not as dark because the right side is lit and the left side is in the shadows. And in order to do the eyebrows, I will need to go back a bit to the darker shadow, and I'm just making an area around like the eyebrow. I add a bit more green to it because it's not quite as red. So individual hair on the eyebrow I will only add later in the process. Like now it's not the right time. You have to do all the details later on. In the beginning we will only focus on major areas of the painting and of the portrait. So this brush is a bit too small already. I might switch to a bigger one in a moment. So let's see. I used a new brush here. These are Tosh brushes, but you can use regular flat brushes that have a quite large area here. When they are too short, they're useless. So I really prefer when they're a bit longer. So I will add more of the shadow areas now. And I need to mix a bit more paint. It's also very hot here, so it's summer right now. And this affects directly the drying time of the painting. So whenever you are in a colder region or in a hotter or warmer region, your oil paint will have completely different drying times. So the hotter it is, the faster you will probably have to work, or you can not use liquid. So as I said in the beginning, I use liquid original, and it decreases the drying time. So if I wouldn't use that, I would probably not have to work so fast because I have more time for the oil paint to dry. But I'm pretty used to liquid original, like how it works and how it works together with my technique, so I always use it. I just work a bit faster than in the summer months. And what I do here is I just follow my reference. So here it's actually darker, so I didn't paint it dark enough. But I still have this brown on my brush, so I will just see where I can apply this brown tone. So my reference photo is very limited regarding the color. So it's most of the time very brown, and in my opinion this is not very good for a face because you need more colors. I personally like it more because it looks more natural. Like if you see a person in real life, there are a lot of colors in the skin tone, and it just looks more lively. And like models, for example, in magazine photos, it looks very artificial. So I might have to use additional colors just later on in the process, that I will just tint the face in. Or I might add those colors in between, and I might try to exaggerate some of the colors that I find in my reference, but we will see. I can't really say for sure now. So I will also frame the face here, like with a contour, so that I know where to stop. Like that. It's a bit easier then when I know where the face ends at the sides. So like that. Even though I have my reference traced onto the canvas, I still have to check the proportions all the time, because it is super easy to get it wrong and to just paint in one direction endlessly, and then you realize in the end, oh my god, like one eye is larger than the other one. So just you have to check it all the time. Yeah. So okay. Yeah, here's more shadow. So like the whole nose is dark too, so I forgot this part. So I will very carefully just fill in the left side of the nose. I add more olive green to my paint here. Like that. And I can use the same color here in this corner underneath the eyebrow. On the left side of her mouth we have another shadow, so I'm just using the same color. And now, like, this area needs to be darker, but I will come to that. I will just see, I will first see where all the shadows go, so I'm just filling out all those shadows first. Here in the left corner of the left eye, we have this color as well. It goes until the middle of the eye, roughly. And I will try to make the eyelid here, I'll try to correct the shape here and make it not as wobbly. Here we have of shadow as well, and here directly under the lip it is a bit lighter too, so I'm applying that here as well. Okay, I think I have to just draw in the shadow a bit more. Like that. And now I will add the darker part there in the middle. I'm using indigo blue and olive green and a little bit of liquid, not too much, because otherwise it won't stick to the canvas if I would use too much. I might have already used too much, so I will mix the paint again. Indigo blue, burnt sienna, and a bit of black. And another try. Now it sticks a bit better on the canvas. Like it's always hard to paint with dark over your paint, as I said in the beginning. If I now would have wanted to add a lighter color to this darker ground, white or maybe a beige tone. It would be very easy, but to make it a bit darker, this is harder. Because the dark tones, because they're translucent, they don't stick to the canvas and they mix with the color underneath it, and so it's a bit harder. But my paint was thin enough, so I'm able to make this area a bit darker. Like that. And here as well. But of course we still have the second layer of paint for the face, so I can make any corrections that I want in the second layer. I don't have to be perfect in the first layer. So now I'm cleaning my brush because it is too dark. I want to mix the tone here. I am using burnt sienna and light ochre and a bit of the olive green. Now we have a very opaque paint here. It's not translucent anymore. I'm just adding it here. And then I work again from the other side. So it's not perfect. I will probably go over this area again in later parts of the painting. Now I'm going to paint one eye for you, and then I will paint the other eye. But normally I would paint both eyes simultaneously, but then you probably can't really see and learn how to paint one eye. So it might be a bit easier when I structure it this way. It helps when you do both eyes simultaneously, because then it's easier to get them even and symmetrical. But since this is oil paint, you can always correct everything, so it's not that bad if it doesn't look perfect in the first attempt. So what I do first is to get the dark shapes here again right. So now I'm trying to stick to my reference a bit closer and pay more attention to details. And here this area is darker, so I didn't paint it dark enough. So what I do is I first add those like fold that you can see on the reference photo on the top of the eye. And oh, this was too light, so I add a bit of black, ivory black and indigo blue for the bottom part under the waterline of the eye. Just drawing this shadow a bit more into the middle. And this area here needs to be darker as well. For that, I'm using the other brush, which is a bit larger. And with a flat brush, I find it easier to make those, just to make shapes. I find it easier than a round brush. So I'm using the same paint again, indigo blue and olive green. No liquid this time. A bit sienna. Like that. maybe it needs to be even more darker. And for the side of the eye, for the corner, I use olive green as well. So in the painting process, I oftentimes correct my values over and over again, because I start too light more or sometimes too dark. I think most of the times I start too light, so this is normal. To me it happens a lot of times. But this is also the nice thing with oil paints, that you can correct it all the time. So here, this whole area is super dark. So what I will use is ivory black and phthalo green. This is a nice dark turquoise green for the shadows here. And I will use the same green for her eyes too. So this area here is super dark. Like that. Normally I would do it on the other eye too, so just to have it even. So like that. So I'm cleaning the brush again, and now I'm using the smaller brush, this one here, for the pupil and her iris. So I'm using this phthalo green again. I can't really pronounce that correctly, I'm sorry. And I'm adding like the shadow. There's always a shadow of the iris directly under the lid, because it casts a shadow on the eye, so there's always a shadow here. And now I need a very bright turquoise. I try to mix it with the phthalo green now. Let's see, with white together and with ultramarine blue. But I think it's not bright enough. So I do have another turquoise tone that is very bright for the inside of the eye. So the turquoise tone is called Cobalt Turquoise from Norma Schminke. And like, if you want to use those very, very bright colors, then it's really hard to mix them. It's better to buy them as pre-mixed paint. Sometimes it's just not possible to get such a bright tone. But it depends on your painting. So if you maybe paint in or you want to paint something very bright and you know everything will be purple for example, then you can definitely just buy them in advance. If you are on a tight budget, then obviously you can't just buy every color you need, so, or every color you want. So it makes sense to plan your painting in advance and to just see, okay, which colors would I need for my painting? Will there be a lot of purple in them, or maybe bright colors? Then you can paint them, you can buy them. If you know that you're going to be a painter, maybe professionally, or if you know, okay, this is my hobby and I will definitely do it every day for the next years, or maybe just you just want to learn it, then it definitely is useful to invest in the paints and get like the colors you need. You don't need the most expensive paints, obviously. Like medium grade is perfectly fine, or student grade even. Like, just see if you can work with the paints. Okay, now so for the turquoise here I used cadmium yellow lemon and phthalo green to make them a bit more greener, or just a bit more bluish. So in the lower part of the irises it's lighter, so I will have to add a bit of white there. And then here at the top of the iris, it's dark again, so I'm just adding this phthalo green there. And here for the top, I'm using just indigo blue and make it darker, and on the right side as well. So here, the corner of the eye is a bit more red, so I add permanent red violet to this dark tone. And here in the inside, like in the white of the eye, on the left side, it is very dark, so you can't see almost nothing here. So I will just use what I have on my brush and filling this area here in. Now I think I will just work on the shape of the pupil here again and make this one right. Like that. Okay, and here for the inside of the eye, we will need a lighter color, but first I want to work this little corner here. For that I'm using cadmium red and burnt sienna. Just a little bit, just really only a drop of color here. And I'm constantly working here on the shapes to get them proper. Like that. And now onto the inside here. For this area, white would be too light, but I use a bit of white, and then I add some of my previously painted darker tones. I just add it to the white and a bit of the sienna tones to make it more red, and a bit of light ochre and a bit of olive green, just everything together. It's a greenish grayish tone. And let's see if this is the right tone or if I have to add something. I think I need to add more white and make it a bit more blue. So I'm using some of the cobalt turquoise here. Just everything I have mixed on my palette. So I don't always use like the fresh paint. I just use what I have on my palette. And here I'm using a bit thicker paint because I need to place it onto the previously painted black areas here. So this is the advantage when you start with the dark tones. You can easily place your light tones on top of them. Like that. So here at the bottom, I need to correct the shape. So I'm using a bit of the burnt sienna tone and a bit of black, and then I'm carefully correcting here this shape, like that. need a bit more of the black tone for this shape here, and a bit of permanent red, violet and cadmium red. Just the shape is a bit too low, it needs to be higher. Like the small things make the difference in the end. With the small details, they count. And here I'm adding more black in the corner. Yeah, I think that will work. And now, like this shape here, adding a bit, just drawing it a bit down, dragging it down. And here again. So, and now I'm mixing the color for the waterline, and for that I'm using ochre, yellow ochre and olive green, and a bit of burnt sienna and white, a bit of white probably, but just a tiny bit. I could also use Naples yellow. I just realized that I have Naples yellow on my palette. Naples yellow is great, so I will use this one. It's almost the exact color already. So I'm going to just draw a line here very carefully. Like that. And here in the left side the line is darker, so I have to add more burnt sienna to it. This was too dark. So I go again here with the other paint that I mixed, and a bit of burnt sienna again. In order to paint those very thin lines and small details, it helps to hold the breath. This is what I do, because otherwise I can't really keep my hand steady, so holding the breath, even with this stick here, which already helps to get a steady hand, I still have to hold on my breath. So the inside here is a bit too light. Working on this again. And now I think the line is too long, so I need to correct this too. Now I will work on the rest of the eyelid. So I will use my burnt sienna ochre mixture here with a bit of cadmium red and permanent red violet, and then I'm using this paint here for her eyelids. Maybe it needs a bit more gray, so I'm just adding a bit black to it so that it's not that bright. I'm just checking with the reference where this skin tone that I just mixed can be found, yeah, on the reference photo. I also try to go with the form of the eyelid here. So now I need a light tone here. So I'm using Naples yellow and white, and I will add the highlights here on the eyelid. Here's one. Obviously, now I have to be very careful here to not destroy anything that I previously painted. So I think I use more of the Naples yellow than the white, because the white is a bit too strong here. There's another line here. I will have to correct it with a darker tone. It's way too wobbly. So I think I need to go from the right here, like that. And then there is a highlight here, directly in the corner. Okay, but now everything is still too wobbly, so I have to correct it. I use burnt sienna and a bit of cadmium red, just a little bit, little tiny bit, and light ochre. These are like the main skin tones here for this face, as you have probably already noticed. And I will just try to get the form here right, to make it less wobbly. A little bit of this here. And now I use a dark tone again, because I destroyed the lash line here. To get that right again. And then here the corner of the eye again. I want this area darker too, like that. And now I need a more or less blurry line here, because the edge there is too sharp. So for that I'll use another brush, a dry brush. Let's see if it works with this one, or maybe with another one. It has to be small and not too spread out, and soft. Soft would be good. Okay, I will try this brush and see if I can get a smooth edge here. And again. Okay, but I need to now make this area here a bit darker again. So what I did is that I lifted off the paint a bit and make it smooth. But I lifted off a bit too much. So I have to add more. I have to paint over the shadow area here again, so this can happen. So I just held my breath to get this line there correct, and now I'm filling in the shadow here. again. And this here needs to be a bit darker as well. So I think in the first layer we're just not able to get dark enough and make the edges smooth enough to get a more realistic outcome than this one. To get it perfectly right, I need to let it dry and then work on the next layer again. So this area here, for example, it needs to be a bit darker, just a bit. Then here we need a gradient. Here in the inside. Just a small line. So it already got a bit wobbly again. This is normal, like the first layer is not so easy. It gets easier in the following one. So once you have put down the first layer of paint and it's dried, it's way easier to paint over it, because it's easy to paint over oil again. This one is like the primed canvas with only one thin layer of oil paint, but when I added like a thicker layer, it gets easier. So you will be able to add more details to the painting. So I need to make this one here a bit darker. Maybe I made the inside a bit too dark, so I will just use a bit of Naples yellow, just a bit, and mix it with the rest of the dark tones, and then I will just add a light drop of paint here, just a little bit, and maybe a bit of cadmium orange light. This is a very strong paint, so I have to be careful. Okay, and now I use the same paint here for the corner of the eye. So I will add the inside of the eye like this. What we can do is we can add the little highlight there to finish it up, like it's here. The other highlight there, I need to paint over with black. And then to make this eye perfect, as I said, I have to wait for the first layer of paint to dry. Otherwise, it's just a pain to try to make it perfect in this try. It just takes forever. It won't look as good as the second layer, and it's it's not worth it. So it will just take too long. Makes more sense to add another layer of paint. So here, this area needs to be darker, a bit darker. Also the eyebrow, eyebrow is too high, needs to be a bit lower. Like that. So now onto the inside here. So for that I'm mixing olive green and a bit of the burnt sienna. Just filling in this area. I always squint my eyes, by the way, so that I can see the colors on my reference better and the color values. So this one here needs to be darker. Huge needs to be way darker. And then here's like a little shadow. Okay, and then we have here on the left side another shadow as well. Like that. Oh, this was too this was too dark. So here the shadow is not that dark. Okay, and now we can fill in like this part underneath the eye. And for that I'm using Naples yellow and a bit of burnt sienna. So my Naples yellow turned out to be not super pigmented, so I have to be careful when you mix something that is not super pigmented with something that is super pigmented, like burnt sienna. The color just vanishes, it just goes away. So you only have to use like a tiny bit of burnt sienna to mix your Naples yellow, but it depends. Like my Naples yellow is not the greatest, so I think I mix in more of the more of the light ochre into it, and a bit of cadmium red light, just a bit. And let's see if this is a good color now. This one was too light. Yeah, I think this is good. Yeah, I will use a bit of the olive green as well. Also now I will need a bit more paint. So because it's an opaque paint, it's not translucent, I will need more of it. Otherwise it just looks ugly. Now I would use white, a bit white, just a bit, and a bit of the darker tones that I mixed on my palette, just to make it a bit more gray. So I never use gray. I don't have any gray paints. In order to get gray, I just wait until I mixed a lot of paint, and then when I mix all of it together, I have like gray tones. And you can always use black to make something more gray and to get it less saturated. So here I will need indigo blue because I don't want everything to be like extremely orange. So I'm just using a bit of this blue here, and then I'm going back to the brown. I'm just adding to my skin tone burnt sienna to make it a bit brown again. So now I have a good skin tone. So this is like a very muted tone, muted grayish, bluish, whatever. And yeah, this happened when I mixed the indigo blue to it. Indigo blue and burnt sienna. So with this tone I can work. I will just make a smooth edge to the eye here. And here as well, like a smooth edge. Yeah, and now I can just can continue to fill in here the cheek. And the lower part of the face. Do you see how nice the paint blends with the darker parts that I previously painted? This is really what I like so much when I start with the dark tones, because I know that my whites will mix in perfectly. I will use the same paint for filling in here the color of her forehead. And normally I would have needed to paint in the other eye, but I wanted to make it a bit more structured for you, so I finished the one eye here. And here for the eyebrow, I used the same paint and I just touch the border of the black and just use one brush stroke and follow it, just like that. And it's not as smooth as here, so I will have to go over it again with the black. So this looks better. And here for the left, I'm just using a bit burnt sienna and olive green. Now let's work on the nose. Noses from the front are always a bit difficult, so I thought I will show you how I do it. First of all, I will get the darker tones right again, because I wasn't like perfectly, I didn't do them perfect in the first place, so I will just go over these shapes again just to check if they are right. Like this nostril here needs to be a bit darker, and the right nostril is longer. So, and I just drag this shape a bit down. Here at the left we have a pretty dark shadow which follows the left side of the nose. And now we need the inside of the nose darker as well. So I'm using, I painted this. I'm using burnt sienna again and ivory black. And just filling in the shadow here. And I also used my olive green again. Like all the shadow tones, I use the same 3 colors. It's pretty boring. It's always the same 3 colors. I'm just following here the shape of the left nostril. And here at the bottom of the nose, it's a bit more red, so I use burnt sienna and a bit of the cadmium red to fill in this area, like that. And the same color is here under the nostril and here along the back of the nose. There was black on my brush, so I have to clean it. Just a bit of the cadmium red light here. I'm following here the shape of the nose back, like I can see it on the reference photo. And here on the left nostril as well. And now I need to mix a bit more dark brown, so ivory black and burnt sienna. And just fill in here the right nostril. And like the tip of the nose, you have to be very concentrated here, because it requires really the correct form and shape. Like if that looks weird, it can destroy the whole impression of the face. So I just look where what I see on the reference. So here, for example, is a very light area, like a little, tiny little line next to the nostril. So I will of course add this line here. And then here in the under the nose, we have a shadow, like a brown shadow, not black, more red brown. So I'm also adding that. And like I have to paint the nostril dark again. And the shadow there, it goes until the right nostril, but it gets lighter, so I have to use a lighter version of the shadow color, just a tiny bit. Like they're sometimes so, like the differences between the values are very, very subtle and very slow and very small, but it's pretty hard for a beginner to get this right, so don't blame yourself if you don't get it right the first time. Like I didn't when I started to paint oils. So don't worry about that. So now I have approximately the shape correct. Like I need to add a bit more of the tip here of the nose on the left side. Just a bit. Like that, I would say. Okay, and now we can move on to the rest of the nose. So here the light goes a bit to the left side of the nose, a bit more than I painted it, like that. And it's always good to make the like blend in the paint of the edges before you start to fill in the next part of your painting. So this didn't work. I wanted to make here a nice blending. I just have to go over it again. And here as well, this area. So but for that I'm trying to do that with a bit of a larger brush. And I use burnt sienna again. And now I'm just working on the shape of the nose. So like it is, like here's a brown area on the top. And here it is a bit darker again. And for the rest of the nose, I will use this skin tone like that I used here. So I take a bit of the Naples yellow and a tiny bit of burnt sienna and cadmium red and a bit of the indigo blue, just a tiny bit. And then let's see if this is the right paint here. This is a bit too light, I think, so I'm just adding more of the burnt sienna to it. And try again. Like that. I think this is okay for the first layer. And here on the right nostril. So you can't really see where the right nostril ends, because it goes over in the right part of the nose. It goes over into the face, so I don't pay attention to that. Just filling out the back of the nose, and I try to make a blending here to the left side of the nose. So, and if you want to distinguish like the right side of the face with the nose, we will have to work from the outside. So first I will make this highlight there, like we have a highlight here, a small one, and in the middle of the nose, it's like the whole tip is a bit lighter, and then like right from the nose the area is lighter too. So if I want to distinguish the right side of the face and the nose, I will just have to work from the outside here. So this might have been a bit too light, so I'll make it a bit darker. And here as well, like the outside is lighter than the inside. This is the inside, this is the outside, if you have wondered. So I'm just, with this like flat brush, you can perfectly cut out shapes. So this is why I like using them so much. So I can just cut out the nose like that. Looks good. I think it looks good. And now I'm just continuing here below the nose, just cutting it out. And here as well. And here, this was too light, so we'll add a bit more of the Naples yellow and the burnt sienna and ochre to it. Just go over it so that I can make the white a bit darker. So if I would have painted the right eye, I could have cut out the right eye as well, but I haven't yet. So I will first have to paint the right eye. So like that. And just following the lips here. So here, like under the nose, I just need to use a darker tone. So I will just add more burnt sienna to my mix. And just follow this shape here. This was not dark enough, so I will just take a darker color. And a bit of the indigo blue, because it really gives the skin tone like a nice skin, almost really, it's perfectly like a skin tone already. Like the indigo blue, I really rarely use, but I think it's very useful. I should use it more often. So just, and you don't need indigo, just some blue tone, some greenish blue tone like the phthalo green or the cobalt turquoise. If you add that to your skin tones, you get various shades of grays, like I did here, like I have of greens, and it just looks so much more natural when you mix skin tones. It doesn't have to be like the indigo blue. Just don't feel that you have to buy the exact same colors that I use. It's not necessary, because for every painting sometimes I use totally different paints. Even the burnt sienna, sometimes I use transparent oxide red. It doesn't really matter, just approximately the same colors. So here for the inside, I need more of the Naples yellow. So where is it? I put it on my palette. I'm just cutting out here the shadow of the nose. Like that. It looks good already. This is nice. I'm happy with it. So here over the lip, just need a shadow. Now we will focus on how to paint the lip here. And first of all, I want to just get the surrounding of the lip a bit better. And here in the left corner, I need to add some like red tone. Especially in the longer like your session takes, the more paint you have already on your palette, and then you can just pick the paint you mixed. You don't have to mix every single skin tone again. I just look on my palette, and now I'm just using some of the browns and add a bit of the orange, cadmium red orange to it, and I already have a skin tone. Okay, so the lips are super intense dark purple, and this will be a bit difficult to get mixed with oil paints because the purple tone that I have is not very pigmented or saturated, so I will try if I can get this color. First I switch my towel here for cleaning my brushes, because I need to have a completely different set of colors here. So I also have to clean my brush here very properly, and I will try to get this purple tone right now. So I will have to use Permanent Red Violet from Schmincke. This is a very intense pink, and then maybe indigo blue. I will try how this looks. Yeah, I think this is a good color for this. So indigo blue and Permanent Red Violet. This is not an opaque color. This is transparent, so it might not be good on the palette, on the canvas. So I have to be very carefully because I don't want to destroy anything that I painted here already. I think I already went over the lines. It happened so fast. So I will just very, very carefully fill out here the inside of the lip. And with the edges of this flat brush, you can make very sharp, you can go in very sharp corners with it. I really prefer those brushes. So for the lower lip, I use the same color here. There are also highlights on the lip, but I will add those highlights later. First I try to get the shape right. So I also have to be careful that I don't have any like paint on the edges here. That it's pushed toward the edges. But I know that I want to have a smooth gradient, so I need to be careful here. Okay, and now I have to work from the outsides again. So I need to clean my brush, and I need to get some of the skin tone on my brush again. Okay, I will try with the right side here. Like this. And I need to get darker, definitely. So I'm just very, very carefully touching here the edges, because it can smudge very easily, it can look very messy. So I just have to be careful here, and always clean the brush after I have touched the lip, because then there's purple on the brush, and I don't want the purple to be anywhere else in the face, only on the lips. So I'm adding some of the Naples yellow to my brush. I think this was way too light, so I continue in here on the right side of the lip, because this is more of the light color. Just carefully adding here making the border of the lip. Then I go to the left side again. I need more darker skin tone. Approximately, it's not perfect. So I think the whole area here left from the nose is too light. To make it darker. Yeah, maybe in the second layer then. The color is too wet right now. Okay, I need to clean my brush. This is what you hear right now. And I will take this dry brush, and then I just go over the edges again. Like that. And here on the bottom as well. Then I have to work from the outside again. This is a normal process. It sometimes can really take so long. And here I just went over the shadow. So I have to add this shadow again. I might add the shadow, but properly in the next layer. Because now it's everything is too wet. So what I will do now. So I need to mix more skin tone. Like now it's too thin. So what is the problem now is that that the color on my palette is dried and it's too thin. Now I need more paint for the canvas, because otherwise I'm just pushing paint around, like here on this area, and just lifting paint off the canvas. This is not what I want. So I also need a dark skin tone here for the left side of her face, and then mixing burnt sienna and cadmium red. Light again. Let's see if this is a good paint. Yeah, I think it's okay. Maybe it's, I think it might be too light, still too light, so I'm just adding ivory black to it. So this should be a bit better. Like that. Okay, like that. So I need to get rid of the paint now because I want to work on the lip again. I just have to get rid of it again. And I add a black, I just paint over this black line here to make it darker. Because in the first attempt I used a lot of liquid and it's a bit transparent, but now I want to have it really, really dark. Like that. Okay, and now I'm back to the lip again. So I will use the smaller brush here. I'm mixing the permanent red violet. Now I'm trying ultramarine blue and see how this violet looks. I think this is it's almost the same violet tone here, but it's so transparent that I can't see it, so I have to use indigo blue. Ultramarine blue is very transparent and I can't see it on the palette, on the canvas. On the palette I can see it, but on the canvas it's just too transparent. It mixes with the paint underneath it and then it's gone. So I'm just using more of the indigo blue here for the left side of the lip. In the second layer, I will be able to paint over it better. Now I have to cover the golden underpainting there, and it will always shine through because the paint is so transparent. But in the second layer, I will just have to paint over this purple. It's already purple, so it will be way better and way more visible. So here we have like highlight. So I have like a pink tone here, magenta, it's called magenta. And I mix magenta with ultramarine light. Let's see if I get a nice highlight tone here. And a bit white to it. I'm just it's not super light. And here on the lower lip I need this. I need also some highlights. So maybe this was too much though. I will just go over it again with the indigo purple mix here. Yeah, I think this is nice. So this is how I would paint the first layer of the lip. I think it looks good already. So in the second layer I can just add more highlights, more details to it and make it more three-dimensional. and not as flat as it looks now. It looks a bit flat. But I like it. So now I need to move on to the rest of the face. So, and what we do now is to connect all the things that we already painted together. Just fill in the rest of the face, and I will explain how I do that. So first I will need a larger brush than this one. I think this one is good. It's like a couple of sizes larger, and I will first mix a large amount of skin tone here, and I'm using Naples yellow, white, and a bit of burnt sienna, and liquid original, and a tiny bit of the indigo blue, just to get this nice skin tone. Bit of the Gamsol too. If the color is already maybe a bit thick because it might have dried a bit, you can also use a bit of Gamsol to just make it fluid again, but only like not if it's very dried, obviously. So now with a larger brush I can easily fill out larger areas, and I just see where this whiter color applies, or where I can find it on my reference photo. I'm just adding it there. And here too. And now I need a darker skin tone. So I use the same paint. I add a bit burnt sienna to it, cadmium red light to it, liquid again, more of the Naples yellow. I need a huge amount here. So let's see if this is a good paint. I think it's too orange. Maybe I can add some areas here and there, but not everywhere. I will add more ochre to it, and more burnt sienna, and a bit of the indigo blue again, just to get it less saturated and more muted. Mixing takes long, it's normal. To get the exact tone that you want, it just takes some time. So I think that's too much ochre. So we'll add more cadmium to it, and again a bit white and ultramarine this time, because the indigo tone is a bit too green. So now I'm just filling out here the remaining parts. now add more white to the tone. And I added a bit more cadmium to it, so I'm just constantly adjusting the color that I have on my brush so that it fits to my reference photo. So now I will, here's another spot that I forgot. Okay, and now we need to make all of it a bit more smoother and not so messy. But first of all, I will use the smaller brush again, and I want to work on the edge of the face. Here on the chin, I also want to have a smooth, like a blend to the shadow area there. And here I need a bit more white in this area. And I will just carefully blend in the paint that I just applied. You can also use a completely dry brush and go over your paint. I think I will try to do that. And now for the right side of the face and for the forehead, but I need this paper towel here so that I can clean off my brush. And I also need a very soft brush. So I will take this larger, very soft brush here. It's new, so it's still very soft. And then I will just go over these areas here softly, very soft. And then the paint blends into each other. And you have to clean your brush after every blending process again, because otherwise it will carry paint on it, and then you have this paint in areas you don't want it. So after the blending process, some of the values will be wrong because the colors get mixed, and then just some of the details get lost again. So I don't want to use it over the complete face. So I use the other brush here, just for the smaller details. And here I have to be careful just to get a good blending into the shadow area there. Like that. So here, this area is too wet, so I can't really blend there. I have to wait for the last, or for the second layer to blend it properly. I think here on around the mouth I just can add a bit darker tone. Yeah, and I think this is it for the first layer. Congrats if you made it that far and if you watched the whole video. I hope you learned something and it was helpful for you. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I see you in the next one. Bye bye!